In the wake of another young adult arrested for heroin, I'm joined by one mother whose life was personally touched by heroin addiction. So thank you for joining me. Let's first talk about kind of your story. What was it, a year ago that you lost your son to heroin addiction, correct?
Yes, my son died on July 23rd of 2012. His name was John Casina. He had struggled with heroin for probably about a year and a half. We were aware of it only the last 6 months of his life. He put himself into rehab and he was trying hard to get clean, but like so many others, he lost his battle with his addiction by overdosing after 2 months clean on July 23rd of last year.
So with that said, you've become quite the advocate, and I commend you personally for what you're doing, taking your loss and turning it into something kind of positive. Talk a little bit about that, how now you've become an advocate for heroin awareness.
Yeah, actually, I entered this horrific world of heroin last year. It really started with the inception of Open Hearts, Open Eyes, the group that was founded by my son's friends, John Humphreys, Marissa Bott, Chris Merkis. They had come here literally the day after John died with this idea of starting an open forum, a Facebook page that kind of gives people a place to go to find information, resources, and to get support. It's a way to start the conversation about heroin in our community. Before that, nobody even wanted to admit that heroin was in our community. But now at least we have shows like this. We have information out there. That's really good for families who are still struggling with this. Another thing that I'm working on is getting information out about my naloxone outreach program. Since John died, I found out about the overdose reversal drug called naloxone. It is an opiate antagonist. It is a complete reversal. It is a drug that allows a complete reversal of an overdose. Any family who has a struggling addict in their home should have this life-saving drug at their disposal.
Another arrest of a young person for selling heroin. There's been some reports in the paper, we were kind of talking earlier, you want to sort of clear the air, if you will. I mean, kind of talk about your reaction and some of the misnomers with regards to the recent arrest.
The arrest was of a young man named Peter Rundo. Peter was a very good friend, a very close friend of my son John's, but he was not a founding member, but he did participate in our group. Peter has struggled on and off with his addiction for well over a year. He and John started using at approximately the same time. Peter had been trying to get clean using a heroin replacement therapy called methadone. He was going to a methadone clinic in an attempt to get clean, but he continued to struggle with his addiction. Like many people who struggle with addiction, Peter fell into selling the drug in order to support his own habit. This is something that I find very common with people struggling with this particular addiction, because it's so all-enveloping of their lives. There really is no other way to support your habit other than to turn around and sell.
Does that, do you think, give the group a little bit of a bad rap, or do you think the media is putting a bad rap on this group?
Well, actually, I think first and foremost, we should probably clarify what Open Hearts, Open Eyes is. It is an open forum, and there are active addicts that are on that page. They come onto the page looking for support and for information and to find resources. Families are on there, friends are on there, loved ones are on there, and that was Peter's involvement in the Facebook page as well.
So these kids are reaching out for help. It's not like they want to be an addict. It's not like they're bad kids.
No, it's not like they're bad kids. They're looking for information and support. And this wasn't like, when I say a support group, it wasn't like there was active meetings going on. It's not like NA that actually has a meeting place. This is strictly just an online open forum. I do know Peter in the past had attended NA meetings as well, but like any meeting, 12-step program meeting, people who continue to struggle with their addiction do occasionally relapse. Relapse is part of the recovery process, and it's just contingent with heroin on surviving the relapse.
The Daily Herald had reported that we're on record, DuPage County is on record to have the most heroin-related deaths so far this year. How do you fathom something like, if that's true, how do you fathom something like that?
This thing has skyrocketed over the last few years. What started out as an occasional heroin death probably 6-7 years ago has, I think we are currently double. In mid-July, DuPage County was double what the entire count for the entire year of 2012 was in heroin deaths. So we've already surpassed the 2012 number by quite a bit. I think it's due to a number of factors. Number one, heroin is being marketed to our children. It is user-friendly, it is cheap, it is easy to get, and I believe it is being marketed not as heroin. I have talked to several families and several young people who have been given heroin unknowingly, as my son was, and they are being told it is another substance.
So what's the answer here? Is there an answer? Is this something that we can solve as a community?
I think the best answer that we can do is to get information out to our young kids, letting them know exactly what heroin is and how it is masquerading as other drugs. It is not just a white powder. I've talked to some kids, and they've told me they've seen heroin come in a green powder or in a blue powder or in any number of beige powders. So quite honestly, kids are not safe taking pretty much anything because you just don't know what is in there unless you have a chemistry set and you're able to test it. I would be cautious about using any drug because you don't know what it is.
Is there anything else you would like to tell either students certainly or even the parents? Anything else at all to add?
The best thing I can say is be open and talk honestly with your children. Talk to them about the dangers of any drug, but specifically of heroin. This is, every heroin addict I've spoken to has talked about the struggle to get clean. Once they figured out they were on heroin, they have such an issue trying to get off of it. It is a brain disease. There's a brain science. There's a scientific reason why kids cannot get off of this stuff. It changes your brain chemistry to the point where your brain is rewired. For those who are already struggling, they should know that that we now have a naloxone law in Illinois that allows families with struggling addicts to have naloxone in their home. It is the first tool to survival. It is a tool for recovery. And relapse being part of recovery, you have to be able to survive the relapse. So if they have these tools in place, it buys them more time. It buys them another opportunity to continue their recovery process. Recovery is possible with the right tools.
Well, with that, I'd like to thank you again for taking the time to share your story and sharing not only with me, but with the community. So I appreciate that, Caroline.
Thank you.